Join us as we discuss Child of Light in the next episode of the Time Hop Podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Time Hop Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Lozada. I'm joined with Tim Ronan.
Hello.
In case you don't know, it's Tim. In case you don't know, the Time Hop Podcast is a podcast that plays games of the past to let you know if they're worth playing. Today's episode is all about Child of Light, which originally released for PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC on April 29th and 30th, 2014. Only 5 years ago, but it's okay. A little more recent this week. That's fine. Child of Light is still a classic. But before we dive into Child of Light, Tim, how are you doing this week?
I'm alright. A little busy, but that's how it goes.
That's life, you know? That's the way we do stuff. Especially games, you know? A lot of games to cover, not a lot of time to cover them. Yeah.
How are you, David?
I'm alright. I'm okay.
How's our host?
Yeah, I'm the host. I'm alright. I'm also very tired. It's been a very busy week for me. I'm shipping off to
I feel like that's a staple. I feel like you're usually just pretty dead and tired.
Well,
a good 90%.
I know for listeners who aren't aware, every time I log on and we record this podcast, I always tell Tim and Lindsay, "Oh, I'm so tired," and stuff like that. And it's usually because we record right after I get off from my 9 to 5 job, and I live in New York City, and it takes me an hour to get home every day. Well, it takes me an hour to go to work and then come home with the subway. So it's usually a very taxing experience for me because I'm gone for 10 hours a day and I'm working blah blah blah. So that's why I'm so tired every time, And it's usually after the past maybe 3 or 4 days I'm also writing when I get home too. So a lot of stuff that I juggle in my court. I apologize, Tim, if I appear so tired all the time and I keep complaining that I'm tired. But I'm trying to be lively, being alive for this podcast.
Aren't we all a little tired and dead inside?
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Wait, is that just me? Or?
Yeah, that's just being an adult, unfortunately, as I'm sure many of the people listening to this definitely relate to. Let's jump into news of the week. Before we get back to the past, let's explore the present. Tim, what's your news story this week?
Well, I found something interesting. I was like, oh, maybe I'll share that. So, EVE Online is a game. It's a game you can play. I haven't played it, but other people have played it. And you can play it as well. Just because I haven't played it doesn't mean you can't play it. Anyway, it is a game. And apparently, I honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's basically like some kind of, maybe you can correct me, but isn't it like kind of MMO-y, RPG-ish, space-based kind of deal?
It's like a space sim, I guess, right? Space simulator. I don't know. Is it real time strategy space simulator?
I'm honestly not sure.
All I know is that it's the nerdiest game ever made. So
yeah, I've heard little shreds of stories over the years of things that happen in it, but basically it's a big space where people can do RP type stuff, I think. So to that effect, there's to the story, there's this political council in the game that's democratically elected. And apparently, sometime this month, I guess, there was one of the players who was banned, who I think they were, I guess, accused of maybe using their power to give a different player an in-game advantage. And then it turns out that this player was like an actual real-life politician, which is I just kind of funny and interesting. And I guess not only was this person's in-game reputation kind of sullied a little bit, but it even carried over into real life as well, somehow. I'm not totally sure how, but it's just such a weird, it's a strange game that I honestly don't know a whole lot about, but it's funny that this kind of stuff can just happen.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, it's like, first off, I just wanted to say it's pretty incredible that a politician is playing EVE Online, because in my mind,
well, that was my thought too.
in my mind, EVE Online is like one of the most time-consuming MMOs you could ever play. I mean, it's just looking at it gives me anxiety, seriously, because it looks so daunting, and it looks so, I don't really know what the word is here. It's intimidating, and I feel like I would not be able to put, like, me, a regular civilian, would not be able to put in the amount of time that EVE Online requires. And to say that a politician is able to do that with campaigns and et cetera, going on, I'm pretty astounded by that fact. That being said, it is very interesting that this person, I want to kind of like see if like investigators like dive into this, like whether this person became a real life politician after he ascended to power in EVE Online, or if he just kind of like was already a politician and he was just like, I want even more power somewhere else, and decided to play EVE Online. I'm really interested to see like the dichotomy there, and just, it's just so interesting to me, because maybe it's like the video game like inspired him to go pursue something more fulfilling in real life, So, which I would say is very positive,
Mm.
But if it were the other way around, it'd be kind of weird. I just play a regular video game and kill people, to get my power fantasy,
I I like to kill people in games, and that's all I know how to do.
Pretty much. I mean, I like it because it's like I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just killing a robot. So, and that's designed to be killed essentially.
Well, maybe robots have feelings
So,
and families. No. I mean, how do we know? Maybe they have robot feelings. They're different from human feelings, but they're feelings all the same. Nah.
I feel like I'm in the Matrix now, Tim. You're really screwing with me now. My mind is all jumbled. So speaking of jumbled details, my news story of the week is all about PlayStation 5, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Mark Cerny, who was the lead architect of PlayStation 4, he had an exclusive interview with Wire, and he basically just came out and listed all of these features that are going to be included in the PlayStation 5, but he was very vague about it. So, first up, he said that it's going to be priced reasonably. He didn't give an exact price. He said it won't be coming out in 2019, but he didn't say when it will be coming out. He said that it's going to have an AMD chip, and it's going to have a Ryzen line, the AMD's Ryzen line, but he didn't specifically say he didn't specifically give all of the specs that were going to be included in that, like the micro architecture of the device. He also said that it's going to be backwards compatible with PS4, but he didn't say if it's going to be backwards compatible with PS3, PS2, and PS1, which have been the rumors for some time now. And he also said that it's going to be compatible with PSVR, which is fine. I mean, that pretty much takes care of that there. But then it's just like all of these other things where he answers a lot, but he also offers a lot more questions. He also like brings up a lot more questions about it. So I don't know. What do you make of that, Tim? What do you make of Sony just coming out and coming out of nowhere and being like, yeah, PS5 is going to include all these things, dude?
So this wasn't like a leak or anything. It was just like
No.
officials, like Sony officials, basically coming out
Yep.
and giving this information. Is that right?
Yeah. He was straight up like, it was just an interview with Mark Cerny, and he was just like, yo, I'm going to tell you everything. And that was it.
The PS5 is out. You can buy it now.
Oh my god.
So it's $2. Got the cost real down, and actually, you know what? Just have it for free. In fact, we're gonna just deliver it to your houses right now.
Yeah.
How about that?
Why not? Just
Yeah, that's definitely unusual.
yeah.
Since it was just like some random interview, right?
Yeah,
It
with
wasn't
Wired.
Yeah, that's definitely strange. How much of the specs did they reveal? Was it
Not a
pretty
lot.
much everything, or like just at least a good portion of stuff?
A good portion of stuff. So like he said that it is going to be it's going to have an AMD chip, AMD Ryzen line, third generation, 8 cores, 79M Zen 2, and the chip will include a custom unit for 3D audio, which I don't really know what that means. He didn't say if it would work with TV speakers or surround sound or whatever. GPU would be a custom variant of Radeon's Navi family, and that it will allow for ray tracing, and it will include physical media, so it won't be download only console. So it's kind of like, yeah, he answered some stuff and he gave some stuff away, but a lot of it's still kind of, we don't really know, it's still kind of like, okay, that's it seems like he was just saying like very obvious things because people already predicted this. People already know that AMD is going to be with Microsoft and PlayStation next gen because they are with it. They're with them this gen. In like there are very obvious things like the backwards compatibility thing was totally obvious. The patents for that were confirmed. Were rumored for a long time. Stuff like that. And the physical media thing also rumored for a long time. So I don't know.
I wonder what that leaves for E3 then. If anything. Or wait, they're not. Are they? Were they one of the companies not going?
Yep. Sony isn't going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that maybe makes a bit more sense.
I suppose. I don't know. It seems so bizarre to me. Like, why didn't they just do like a video thing like Nintendo?
Yeah. Maybe they will.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe they didn't have software.
But
Do you think that could be it?
what's that?
Maybe they didn't have software, so that's why they didn't do like a video showcase or anything.
I'm not super invested in PlayStation, I don't think.
Right.
So it's interesting, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'll get one.
Yeah, I know. I think we talked about it in a previous episode where I was like, but Tim, it's every PlayStation game. Wouldn't you want that? And you're like, nah, I'll pass. You're like, nah, you can keep it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me my PC gaming, son. You don't need no consoles.
Well,
Get out of here.
I mean, I have like 4 different. Yeah, I have 4 different DSs
Oh.
and an Xbox One
Oh.
and a Wii.
Okay.
I
All
got
right.
consoles.
So I'll take that back then.
Taking it right back.
Never
Very much
mind.
not cool.
I'm gonna take your cool card right back.
I'm just like
No
tepid.
cool. No cool
Or-
for you.
I'm lukewarm.
Let's move on to the topic of the show. This week, we're talking about Child of Light, which I mentioned before, released on April 29th and 30th, 2014. In case you don't know about Child of Light, it was developed by Ubisoft Montreal. It is a role-playing game, a platforming role-playing game. It is one of the first games to use the UbiArt framework engine, which was kind of something that I believe Ubisoft made for Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends, but then they kind of just migrated. They just kind of like played around with the software and they made their own IPs. And one of them was Child of Light. The other one I think was Valiant Hearts. So basically, Child of Light takes place in the land of Lemuria, and it stars a little girl named Aurora, who dies. she dies from the outset, and the goal of the game is to basically resurrect yourself so that you could save your father, who became hopelessly depressed after your death. And the reason why it's so why it became almost an instant classic is just because it's for how unique it is. It's a side scroller, but it's also an RPG, very much an RPG in the vein of Final Fantasy or Grandia. And I really like the turn-based real-time strategy aspect of it. So basically there's a meter at the bottom of the screen, and your characters and the enemy characters, they basically scroll down this meter, and once it gets to a certain gauge at the end of the meter, that's the time for you to attack or to heal yourself or cast other magic spells. And doing that, it's almost like a cadence because you have to time everything correctly, and you could stagger your opponents that way, or you could resurrect, fallen teammates or what have you before you yourself are downed. So without further ado, Tim, what do you think of the game's presentation? Because this is also a really noticeable aspect of Child of Light.
It's pretty beautiful. It's like, I think the intent is that it plays kind of like a storybook.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like it's got hand-drawn assets and maybe even like a sort of like a watercolory, like where they're in the portraits.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some kind of quality to it, but yeah, it's very, very beautiful. I like her Aurora's flowy hair. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when you're gliding around.
Really pleasing to look at.
Mm-hmm. I like how her hair, it's almost like a cloud almost, and it kind of follows her. I think that's something that really kind of sticks out when she's gliding around, and you could fly early on in the game, so I think that really differentiates it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The presentation, it's beautiful in the sense that it isn't like, yeah, there are some elements that you might be able to compare them with Rayman Origins and Legends, but this feels way more like its own. Like it does still feel like it has its own identity in the sense that even like the background, the foreground, they move sometimes. Like you could see, like in one instance there was like a troll in one background, and like sometimes there are like characters or enemy characters who crawl in the foreground, and you're in the background, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna fight this guy next in like 5 minutes or whatever. And then the person, like the platforming aspect itself is pretty cool in the sense that you could see the enemies on screen, so you can avoid them if you wanted to. Kind of like what Final Fantasy game is that? I think it's 10. It was, well, 10 definitely implemented it, but you could avoid the enemies on the screen if you wanted to. You can kind of find hidden areas especially in the levels, and kind of poke around a little bit. And then another cool aspect is the glowing red blue flame that follows Aurora around. I think his name is Ignatius or
Yeah,
something
something like
of
that.
that. Something of that. Forgive me, I don't have my notes in front of me, but he's basically this companion that the players can control, I believe, with the right analog stick. And by controlling him, you can kind of like hold enemies in place. Like when you're in the battle um, uh, sequence, you can kind of hold enemies in place, like they're about to attack, and you can hold them in place until your character enters the attack for sequence. Or you can like find hidden areas through the glowing blue ball or whatever. So it's really cool. I mean, like there's a lot of different aspects that you could play around with, but it still feels very simple. It still feels very plain and accessible. Right? Wouldn't you agree,
It
Tim?
it is pretty simple, and going back to the combat, it is simple, but I do like how there's kind of a real time aspect with the. I think he's supposed to be just a firefly, the blue ball,
Yeah.
but whereas you move your character, Aurora moves based on timing, you can move the firefly around kind of freely, which is interesting
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of adds a weird extra layer, and where it's real time and you can move him around like as much as you want without like restriction of like he doesn't have a turn where you have to spend his turn
Right.
like selecting an enemy to slow. And I thought that was interesting because I feel like at least the majority of games that are turn based don't really have stuff like that. Like everything is restricted to like initiative, and each enemy and character has initiative and they go in
Mm-hmm.
select order. But I thought it was kind of cool. And there's also like there's these plants, these like wish plants or something or other
Yeah.
they're called.
Mm-hmm.
And if you mouse or if you move the firefly over them, you can get these orbs to appear. And then if you collect them like in a certain sequence, they pop out health
Yep.
and mana that you like fill your bars back up with. And those are actually present in each battle that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of cool because it's like you have to kind of maybe ration those for when you really need them in a fight.
Right.
And you can like roll over to them and collect them and like get your health back up, which is interesting. Because I mean, on top of that, I think you do also have like health potions and stuff,
Yeah, you
but it's
do.
kind of an interesting like kind of freebie. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
that was very interesting to me.
Yeah. I think the game, like, because of this real time aspect with the Ignatius or whatever it's called, um, I feel like it solves a problem without very very expertly that a lot of RPG makers have been having. Because like what I think about is like Final Fantasy 13, where it's all active, like it's all real time, but it's still turn based kind of, and they like Square Enix try to find a way to kind of keep players engaged in the action at all times, because the enemy could attack you even when you yourself, like when your gauge is down, but and like everything's constant in the moment, like there's some one character might have his gauge full, whereas the other one might have it depleted already, etc., etc. So you have to kind of manage these characters independently, but also kind of make sure that each one is helping each other out. But I think that made it too complicated, and that kind of bogged down the game a little bit. When you talk about Child of Light, it doesn't bog down the game at all, because it, as much as like, as cool as it is to kind of like play around with and, like you said, like collect health or restore your magic or whatever, it's not necessary. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do that. I mean, you could rely solely on, the time gauge itself, and do things, for lack of a better term, the old fashioned way, but the game gives you this option, so that if you are bored and there is a lull in combat, you can just get right into it, and you could like hold an enemy in place, or you could get that health that you needed, or et cetera, et cetera. So I think, I agree with you, Tim. Like, it makes the whole experience more engaging, and that's one of the, to be honest, I played this game 5 years ago when it came out for Vita. It came out for Vita in July on 2014, and I still remember it for this reason, because it was so different, and I haven't seen a game do that since then. So, yeah, I really applaud Child of Light for doing that, and I hope a sequel comes out that incorporates this gameplay. Sound design.
It also,
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
it also like speaks in not it speaks in like rhymes,
Yeah.
like the lines of dialogue and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I was watching a particular person play, and they were commentating over it, and they kept making rhymes in their commentary, and it's just funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Shakespearean iambic pentameter, and I think it's 5 syllables. Pentameter.
Maybe I have no idea.
I don't know.
Sounds right.
This was something I learned in high school. Completely forgot after the
Me
test
too.
was over.
But then it went out of my brain.
Yep. Yep. Me too. Me too. Yeah, it's Shakespearean iambic pentameter. Sometimes it's really cool. I think that the rhyming, like, I like how, like, Aurora says something, and then, like, the character that she's talking to, like, speaks back to her in a rhyme, and I think that it kind of it makes you want to actually read what they're saying sometimes. But there are some characters who are just kind of like weird, and I don't really like how they speak. Like, I know there's like a jester, and the whole thing about the jester is that she can't rhyme. So every time she's about to every time she's about to complete the iambic pentameter, she messes up. And I think she's cursed or something. I don't know.
That's interesting. I didn't get to that point.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like, I see what they're doing here, but I don't like it. I know I shouldn't be saying that as someone who is a writer and who writes every day, and, is a supposed English lover, but, like, it just seems obnoxious to me after a while. Like, I don't really want to care about it. I don't know. I don't really want to read it or
that everyone rhymes all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems a little obnoxious to me. But to each his own. That's just me. I'm pretty sure that there are tons of people out there who love that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, it's probably not for everyone.
Yeah.
But I personally think it's kind of cool. There's, like, narratively a person who can't speak like everyone else. That's interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of diverse characters here. Like, there's a mouse archer, who I thought was pretty cool. There was, there was a dwarf. There was this, I forgot what the girl was. I think she was like a sorceress of some kind. They're all pretty cool. I mean, they're all I like the mouse archer. He was a badass. And he was a good ranged fighter.
He just shoots little mini arrows at things. Or is it like a big mouse?
It's like a big mouse, like a,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I was
anthropomorphic.
thinking like teeny tiny itty bitty mouse, just like pew pew pew.
That'd be
Yeah,
really
ow, ow,
cute.
you're shooting toothpicks at me. Stop it.
That'd be really cute, actually. I'd like that. Instead of like an anthropomorphic mouse that's like human sized, that'd be freaky. No? I don't want to think about that. But that's weird. Um, I live in New York City, man. I see rats every day. To see one of those things, like,
Have you seen Pizza Rat?
funnily enough, I didn't see a pizza rat. This is a tangent. Forgive me, listeners, but this
Tangents
happened.
are the best.
That's true. Uh, this happened about 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to work. I get off the train, and this is 34th Street, Herald Square. Get off the train, and I see like a mass of people are like, and the car in front of me, they're avoiding something on the ground, and I'm looking at the ground. The staircase is not too far away. I'm looking at the ground before I climb up the staircase, and there's a big ass rat just standing there on the platform. It's just there, and it's waiting for the people to get off of the train before going in. I kid you not. It was like a human being. And like the people were coming off the train, and as soon as the people stopped coming off the train, I think the rat went inside, because I didn't see the rat after the train closed, after the doors closed.
Well, it's got places to be.
I guess
But that
so.
doesn't mean he's got to be rude. It's not, gonna let people pass by.
It was so bizarre, because it was like a human, dude. Like, it was like, whoa. Like, these things are becoming sentient, dude. Like, they're becoming like us.
Yeah, that sounds like Scabbers and Raddington, famous business mogul. Owns his own business.
Anyway, moving on to Child
are
of
people.
Light's sound design. But aside from the iambic pentameter, did you like the orchestral? I think it's an orchestral score, right? Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, pretty beautiful, pretty atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
One, maybe it's just the generic boss music, but there's this like fight against these two statues, these two like really big stone statues,
Oh yeah.
and then there's this like kind of like a big orchestral music that plays, and it's kind of giving me Dark Soulsy vibes in a way.
Oh yeah.
But
I don't remember that one. The only thing I remember about
it's like the
that one
first.
was, yeah.
It's the first boss fight.
It was a bitch. I know that. I remember the two statues.
Yeah.
It was hard.
It actually, because like up until that point, the game seems relatively easy, but then it's like, bam. Like if
Yeah.
you don't, even on like normal mode, if you're not, doing the right things, you could fairly easily die. So
Mhm.
it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean
I personally like a challenge, so
right.
I like that. But
I know, especially towards the end, like I think the second to last boss, I think it's a dragon or something. I don't want to give everything or give anything away, but it's like this really huge creature, and it's hard, dude. Like you have to grind in order to defeat that thing, because like that game kind of helps you out. I know when you get like the mouse archer, like he's already pretty high up there. And when I got him, I was really like, he was like level 30 or 40, and I was only level like 15, like Aurora and the rest of my party. So I was like, shit, like I gotta really step my game up, and I had to like get all my characters up to that level, up to that threshold, and then I felt comfortable going into the next boss. And then it came out that I still wasn't leveled enough, so I had to grind some more. There is some grinding, like I said, toward the later end of the game, but it isn't like obnoxious. Like it isn't like 10 hours just grinding. It's 2 hours at most. It's not that big of a deal. And I probably fucked up somewhere along the way. Let's be honest. you know. But
Hmm.
getting back to the soundtrack, I do agree with you. Like it is, there are some tunes in there that are very storybook like. Like they're the types of music that you would hear listening to like Cinderella or what's another good story like Beauty and the Beast or something like that. It is very uh, romantic in that way. I suppose it's the best way of putting it. And it's calming when you're in between battles, but when you are in battles, like and you're sweating, that music really kind of gets your heart pumping. Like I said, those especially towards those end battles, man. Like you're gonna be sweating bullets, or at least your hands will. So yeah, I think the soundtrack here is really expertly well done. I believe it's available on Spotify, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, there's some relaxing stuff on there, I'd say.
Relaxing and then appropriately, battle themed music, kind of like a Final Fantasy
Hmm.
game. You know, it's good
Yeah,
RPG
some
stuff.
like choirs, like, oh, you're gonna die. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Please don't
exactly,
die.
exactly. Hmm. Uh,
Page Dark Souls.
yeah. So what do you think of the game's lasting appeal? Do you think it's worth playing today?
I would say so. It seems it, like some parts of it are simplistic. Like there's not, you only have like so many stats and whatnot, but then there's like a whole bunch of skills you can get, and the combat feels like it's interesting and a little different and varied. And of course, there's a story to explore and see that. I think there's like different like secrets. Are there secrets in this game, or like at least
Yeah,
things to explore in the world and levels,
yeah.
like chests to find and stuff?
I think I mentioned before, but with that Ignatius blue flame guy, you can kind of open up secret areas because you can kind of like swipe on the screen a little. I think at least in the PlayStation Vita version, like there are controls there, so you can use your right analog stick, and you can kind of reveal like hidden areas or if it's in the dark or something, you can kind of illuminate those areas, and you could open up treasure chests or what have you. Yeah, so even though it's a very much like a very linear 2D platformer, there are some short paths that you can kind of discover and go down and discover some neat stuff.
Okay,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's fairly in some respects simplistic, but it also offers a bit of complexity and challenge. And in general, I'd say it's pretty pretty beautiful. So
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's a yes from me.
It's a yes from Tim, and it's
It's
also going to
my
be.
X Factor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's also going to be a yes
I
from
wasn't
me.
sure.
You've got two yeses. You're going to Hollywood.
Yes. All right.
Oh my God! The golden ticket.
Absolutely ghastly. My name's Simon Cowell.
Yeah, no, it's totally yes for me too. I played this game on PS Vita, so I can attest to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One versions of it. But man, this game is it's really, really quite compelling to take on the go. I think it's available on the Switch actually now, so I definitely recommend if you haven't played it already and you have a Switch, pick it up there. If not, play it on Vita because this is really a game that uh, it's very intuitive with touch controls. It feels very at home there. It's beautiful. It's 2D aesthetic and it's watercolored kind of um, settings and the gameplay. It's so innovative. This is definitely a game that I can't recommend enough. And in my opinion, it's one of the best games that Ubisoft has put out in the past 5 years. Definitely recommend go check it out if you haven't already. All right, so that about wraps up our impressions of Child of Light. Thank you for joining us. Next week, we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VI. That's right. That's probably the biggest game of April. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is probably one of the best Final Fantasy games ever made. I mean, I really can't think of another one that was better than this one. And it's really something. Have you ever played Final Fantasy VI, Tim?
I have not played any of the Final Fantasy games.
That's right. That's right. Well, you're in for a treat because this is a really good game. It really is. And I won't say more because there's just so much to discuss about that game. So join us next week for Final Fantasy VI. All right, so let's talk about games we're playing this week. Tim, what are you going to be playing this week?
Probably mostly I'll be playing. It's a strange game. It's called The Game of Life. It's a niche game. It's not always balanced very well. It's also no New Game Plus, which is kind of a downer.
The NPCs suck.
It's permadeath.
I'm gonna put that in.
AKA working.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. There was a new Enter the Gungeon update that was released.
Oh.
Still want to try and see if I can do that. Apparently, in Borderlands 2, they added a new weapon rarity.
Oh.
There's like a rainbow weapons you can find, so I was interested in that. Other than that, maybe Minecraft-y stuff. But
Hell yeah. Got a Minecraft.
oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
it's probably about it for me.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned in the very beginning of this episode, I'm going to Boston this weekend, so I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to try to bring my 3DS with me, and I'm going to try to get in some more Ocarina of Time, because I really like that game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know we didn't, that was our second episode that we ever did, but I never got around to finishing it, so I'm going to bring it around, I'm going to take it with me on the go, and maybe finally complete it. I have 10 hours on the bus, so it's gonna be.
Have you ever beaten that game?
I have not. I know what happens. I've seen the ending of it. I've gotten like towards the end. I've almost finished it, but I've never finished it completely. I thought I did.
It's a good one to finish.
I thought I did do it, but I guess I got confused with Majora's Mask because I know I had seen it with on a YouTube video, and I'd seen both on YouTube, and I guess I got them mixed up because this was a long time ago. This was like 20 years ago, so I don't remember, man. But yeah, so I might go ahead and play that on my 3DS this weekend. Yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember when I finished it. It was like maybe in middle or high school.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like, I mean, obviously it's a game that a lot of people are like, it's the best game of all time. Best game of the century.
All right.
But I actually don't know that I have that attachment to it. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
yeah, I
think it might, for a lot of people, be, and maybe they really feel that way, and of course that's fine. And I mean, it is a good game, but maybe for some people it's more like, because that was like a big shift for the series.
Yeah.
From 2D to 3D, obviously, and that was probably a part of many people's childhoods. So,
yeah,
maybe some bias there, but
I mean, I agree with you. I think we went over this a couple 20 episodes ago, but yeah, I feel like it's definitely a product of nostalgia, because there are some aspects that are really kind of wonky, but if I put myself in the 90s, in the shoes of someone in the 90s who's also my age, around 25 or so, this would really blow me away, because it is like one of the first sprawling action adventure games where you could actually explore environments and roam around in them, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's kind of like it's a little bit above where I I could definitely see the innovation. I could definitely see the breath of fresh air that this represents, but I could also see, this game is flawed for sure, and it isn't perfect. It's not the best game ever made, So I don't think any game is worthy of that distinction. It's you know that's a very subjective title.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so that about wraps up this episode of the Time Hop Podcast. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Dave Lozada again. You can find me on Twitter at XenoCreator125. Tim is here. You can find him on King Gamer, writing articles as usual. Thank you for joining us again, everyone. Join us next week as we discuss Final Fantasy VI. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.